I'm very positive that if you follow this channel, there's a good chance you might be interested in Japan. And how could you not? Almost any sort of media we like can be traced back to that country, whether it be video games, anime or manga. More often than not, I see people saying that they would love to visit Japan. And you know, I cannot blame them. I've been there and that was the best trip of my life. I've always said that if I could relive any events from my life, they will be high school because I actually like high school. I used to be so happy back then. And of course my trip to Japan. So today I'm going to tell you everything about it. So sit back, relax, and maybe someday you'll be able to do the same. My first and by far only trip to Japan was on April 2019, almost 3 years ago. Damn, almost 3 years ago. But planning for it started as early as 2018, when one of my friends, Pablo, who had already gone there, said if I was interested in going there on vacation. And I had to decide right on the spot, or else the plane tickets will sell out or become super expensive later on. Which I really doubt nowadays, because sometime later, another friend wanted to go with us, whose name is San Esparza on social media by the way. He's an artist and is even working on making funny webcomics. Please go support him because he's insanely talented. Back on topic? He got his plane tickets like 2 months before we left. He had no issue in finding tickets and they were way cheaper than ours, so whack. The main difference is that Pablo and I took a flight to Mexico City, while Shaggy, that's his nickname, flew to Los Angeles, and then arrived to the same airport as us, on Narita, Tokyo. So I guess international connections to the US had something to do with that. And if you're interested about the price, I'll get to that later. Getting to Japan was a fucking nightmare. Pablo and I arrived super early at the airport of our city. We took an incredibly short flight to Mexico City, but there we had to wait 18 hours on our own until our flight to Tokyo was ready to go. So what did we do? We slept on the floor, walked a fuck ton, and tried to find ways to kill as much time as possible. I guess we could have just gone to explore Mexico City in the meantime, but A, that place can get really fucking dangerous, especially with us carrying our belongings. And B, we couldn't find any lockers to store our luggage, so we decided not to take the risk and we just tough out those 18 hours. After that, we took the airplane to Japan and the flight lasted 13 hours, but it wasn't so bad actually. Japanese airplanes are something else, man. The food wasn't so bad and there were a ton of things to do aside from sleeping. I watched some anime, some great movies, and also one of the worst films I've ever seen. But I especially remember playing a lot of Tetris on the airplane because I could just do that. After the flight it was standard customs procedures, but things got a bit weird. After we crossed the gates to have our luggage inspected, Pablo went with a security guard and I went with another. But this guy was super suspicious of me for some reason. He basically took everything out of my suitcase, and when he saw I had nothing bad, he basically just took a book. I think it was a book of shit you couldn't bring into the country. I dropped something. Anyway, I think it was a book of things you couldn't bring into the country, something like that. And he basically was like, "Do you have this? Do you have this?" And he basically pointed at an image of, I think it was illegal porn or some hentai shit, I don't know. To which I only said, "No?" But deep inside I was thinking, "No, dumbass, but even if I had those things, I wouldn't say yes." Do I look that suspicious or was that guy just paranoid? After that, we got on a train and eventually arrived at an Airbnb we all rented. It was a first floor in a great house. It was pretty small, but it had all the basics we needed. But funny enough, we barely spent time there because... What I like the most about my trip to Japan is that every single day offers something unique and memorable. And one thing I'm particularly grateful for is that Shaggy went with us, because he's the type of person who is always on the move. Say, out of the 10 days we were in Japan, Pablo and I planned activities for like 4, maybe 5 days. But Shaggy had a special talent for finding us something on the spot. Sometimes we will just wake up and be like, do we have an activity today? No? Okay, I guess it's a free day then. And he will be on his phone and just say, okay, I just checked TripAdvisor, there's a free tour on this district in 2 hours. Do you guys wanna go? Fuck yeah, let's fucking go! And something that was also really cool is that even after the free tour ended, we could still spend the entire day on that district on our own. As I said, every day was something completely different and we barely had a chance to rest. As soon as Shaggy arrived to the Airbnb, we instantly had to leave for a bar tour we reserved months ago. We drank a lot, but instead of being wasted, we met early in the morning next day on Tokyo Sky Tower. One time we went to the Studio Ghibli Museum. Some other day we took tours on different districts. And here's the coolest part. Every district in Tokyo was an adventure on its own. Even if we had already finished our main business, we could still stay there all day just because there was always something to do. One time we even took the Shinkansen to Osaka so we could visit the Osaka Castle. And that just left me wanting more. That day was incredible! You see, what I love the most about this trip is that not a single day was wasted, and all of them gave me something that I still remember to this day. One thing that was so cool is that some events we did together, all 3 friends. But sometimes we will take groups, or each of us will go their own way, so we all went at our own pace, explore any place we wanted to go, and buy our own stuff. And even when one didn't have an online connection or we didn't agree to meet at a certain spot, finding each other was never an issue, so this made the trip all more pleasant because, yeah, we all went together, but we could still make it as good as we wanted to. When I returned from Japan, I had to rest 3 whole days because I pushed myself to break my limits. I barely took a rest there. If I had to rank my favorite types of food, I will put on top Mexican, but I will also tie it with Italian and Japanese. And you bet, I tried as much authentic Japanese cuisine as I could. If we talk about the best dishes I had, that will be curry, actual sushi, and ramen. Curry because it's one of my favorite dishes in the whole world, so that was a given. Sushi was good because here in the West we mostly associate it like this, the maki way. But in Japan, the most common type of sushi is nigiri, so I love trying the most authentic way of the dish. And finally, ramen. Oh fuck. Every time I remember it, I still get this watery feeling in my mouth. Ichiran Ramen was where I ate the best one. I hear that brand is also in New York City, so perhaps some of you can give it a look. Of course, when you go to another country, not all food will be in your comfort zone. So if you ask me what was the weirdest dish I had, it was crab cream. Make no mistake, I love me any cream-based soup. So what made this one so weird is that we order it, right? A few seconds later, they bring us a small grill, so we implied they were gonna bring some meat or something, like a Korean barbecue. But no, they bring a whole crab head with the cream soup inside of it. In other words, the crab head was the bowl. The waiter told us we had to heat it ourselves by putting it on the grill, and it made me so uncomfortable seeing the crab head slowly burning as it was staring at me. But I won't lie, it tasted really fucking good. It was a very unique experience that grossed me out at first, but it was worth it. As for the worst food I had, natto, or fermented soybeans. You see, I did not order this dish by choice. From my experience, some restaurants in Japan will usually bring you entries just like that. I didn't find that strange because in Mexico it's quite common that some places offer you a snack like tortilla chips before you order your food. The main difference here is that you have to pay for this entry whether you like it or not. And I'm sorry, I love beans, I really do. I even live in a country where they can use a variation of that word against me as a slur. But natto? Easily the worst thing I tried in Japan, and what made it worse is that in some places I had no choice if I wanted that or not. And this might be a surprise, but the other worst dish I had was also curry. Ironic, right? You see, Japan has this branch called Curry House Coco. When I saw curry was its specialty, I was beyond excited to try it. I couldn't do that until a few days later, and I wish I hadn't. I know there's many different types of curry, but this one, not gonna lie, looked like diarrhea. And it didn't have a good flavor. I ordered it with some crab cakes and those were decent, but still, I couldn't finish my dish because I didn't like it. And to make matters worse, I was feeling pretty grossed out a few minutes later. So yeah, maybe I was unlucky, but Coco Curry House, not something I recommend. The coolest part about food in Japan is that if you ever find yourself hungry, getting a good meal is quite easy and very unique actually. Some businesses have these machines with predetermined dishes, and all you have to do is select the one you want, put in the money, give the ticket to the chef, and your food will be ready in no time. Not far off from average vending machines now that I think of it. And finally, alcohol, or sake might be more appropriate. I found alcohol interesting because it's good. Sake tastes great and the Japanese beers I had were tasty. But I genuinely never got drunk, it's so odd. I did one of the worst things you could do while drinking. I mixed multiple types of alcohol. Vodka, tequila, beer, sake, but at worst, I was just happier than usual. I have memories of all the events that happened and I never got a hangover. It's weird, maybe alcohol in Japan isn't as strong? I don't know, I just found it curious. Funny enough, in the past I have seen people say stuff like, "No, don't go to Japan, it has a lot of racists and xenophobes," to which I say, yeah. So does every other country I have visited. Even the one where I live has them too. So what's your point? And even then, I honestly never had an issue like that in Japan. Everyone was super polite or just minded their own business. And I'm serious. The worst experience I had was on public transports, but only during rush hours, because it basically becomes a free-for-all. But even then, Japanese people were honestly very friendly. Not at the same level as in Latin America like I'm used to, but it was still very nice. I especially remember this one time when me and my friends were at a restaurant and this couple was super fascinated with us being foreigners. They struggled a bit with English, but they still crack a few jokes and even told us how to spend our remaining days in Japan. Super adorable people. If I had to compile some of the most important events of that vacation, I will easily put the first day because it was so unreal being in a country I've always wanted to visit. And by night, we had this amazing bar tour where so many people from different countries gathered. And we became fast friends. My only regret? I did not ask anyone for a contact or anything. Oops. If any of you was on Tokyo on a bar tour on April 19, 2019, please let me know. I miss you guys. The arcades, holy shit were they fun! And they were everywhere! Taiko no Tatsujin, I got blisters on my fingers playing that. This dancing game that made me use all of my spare gen. I fucking love this one about controlling a mech because you had so many buttons at your disposal and the chair will move in the same direction you move your mech. It was insanely good. Like Evangelion but with less depression and no awkward hospital scenes. Akihabara. I adore video games and I love me some anime, so you bet this place was a paradise for me. In every corner there was something that caught my interest, something I wanted to buy or try. The thing I remember the most was when I was exploring a building, so I go upstairs and I ended up in a fucking hentai shop and holy shit! Every single corner was nothing but sexual! Speaking of, some of you are already aware of what I did back then. If you know, you know. But if you don't know but wanna know, no, it's not pixelated. Kabukicho, or Kamurocho, as some of you might know it better. I love this place because, yeah, I'm a Yakuza fan, so I got a kick of comparing how accurate the video game version was to the real thing. And it was pretty crazy how familiar it felt for me. It was so easy to move around. Unfortunately, there was no funny eye patch guy. What can you do? And since I just mentioned Yakuza, one time me and my friends went to a karaoke. And believe it or not, there's video game music there too. My only regret is that it had Machine Gun Kiss from Yakuza 4, which is my favorite karaoke song in the series. And I did not sing it because at that time I was still not familiar with it. But oh well. After that it was getting late and I had to get somewhere. And here's what happened. I had to be fast, or else the public transports will stop operating and I will be stuck in an unknown district. I couldn't find the station, but on the street, I found some workers and I was able to ask them in Japanese. "Densha no eki wa doko desu ka?" And they answered me back, but I was only able to understand a few keywords, Hidari and Migi. So I followed their instructions as best as I could, and I was able to find the station and took the very last train to my destination. I'm only telling you this story because I really advise you to know some basic Japanese, because it can save your hide. It's not the end of the world if you don't know any. I mean, Shaggy didn't know any Japanese, but he was able to move on his own just fine. But you know, it's better to be prepared. Going to the movie theater. Around that time, Avengers Endgame had just come out, so Shaggy and I went together and... the cultural differences threw us off there. We are so used to people in Latin America going... during a movie. But in Japan, even during the most exciting moments of the movie, there was nothing but pure silence, while me and my friend were just containing our excitement. Pretty cool experience, I gotta say. The Ghibli Museum. It was cute and exciting, but fuck! They were super strict about you taking pictures. The security guards will manifest on the spot if they saw you trying to take a photo. Órale, culero! One more cool story I remember is that one time I felt I was gonna die. So, we were in Shibuya and it got super late for us. Basically, we couldn't take any public transport anymore and we weren't gonna pay for taxis, and that's something I have to tell you. If you go to Japan, taxis are extremely expensive. Use them only if it's an emergency. Trust me, they are ridiculously expensive. So anyway, it was already late, so we planned to pull an all-nighter on a nightclub. And I won't lie, it was very fun, but it's not an area I am very used to, because I was already super tired because we walk all day, and yeah, just dancing and drinking more, it just tired me so much. Shaggy said that at one point I was sleeping on my feet. I was just, you know, sleeping while standing up. And okay, so it's 5 or 6 a.m. and they kick us out because it's all over. And I vividly remember this one guy who was fighting the security guards. And so we asked around and we found out that this guy got mad because he was rejected by a woman. I get you, man. It wasn't right what you did, but I get you. After that, since we were in Shibuya, there was always a long line to take photos on the Hachiko statue. But since it was super early in the morning, I took the chance and I took a picture with the dog statue. After that, we somehow managed to get to the Airbnb, and then I fell asleep. I wake up like at 1 p.m. I think, and my friends had already left to do their own business. But I swear, I was awake, but I couldn't move my body. My fingers wouldn't respond, I couldn't move my arms. I was basically, it was horrible. But 3 hours passed and I was finally starting to recover movement on my body. And that's when Pablo arrived and I was like, please, just fucking take me to a restaurant or anything. That was the most delicious pasta I've ever eaten. It was actually pretty mediocre, but it was so good for the fact that I felt like Popeye when he hit spinach. I felt all my strength returning to me. So I still had to take a very small rest, but after that I left back to Shibuya to do my own business, because even though I was tired, I wasn't gonna let a single day go to waste. Okay, so to finish this section off, I was looking through some old stuff and I found a few trinkets and souvenirs I brought from Japan, so let's give them a quick look, shall we? For example, right here we have some Tokyo tour guides. They were very useful to find activities, move better around the place, just useful, just the basics, you know? This ticket, it's a reserved seat ticket on the Shinkansen from Osaka to Tokyo. The first time when we went from Tokyo to Osaka, we couldn't get any seats, so we basically had to sit on the places where the wagons connect, and we basically had to be... it was super claustrophobic. I think claustrophobic is the better word. But by returning, we had our own seats for ourselves. Here is a souvenir from the Ghibli Museum. I think it's a few scenes from, I think it's Howl's Moving Castle. I don't know if they gave them for free or I bought them. But anyway, it's a good reminder of that place. Japan Rail Pass. This thing was genuinely fucking expensive. I'll get to that later. But this thing basically gave us free access to a specific train line in Japan. And it also gave us a free ticket on the round trip on the Shinkansen. So it was very worth it. It was absolutely worth it. Here, Pixar. So one time we were in a district, Shaggy wanted to go to a museum, and that same museum coincidentally had a limited time Pixar Expo. And that was pretty fun. After that there was also a Moomin Expo. Shaggy went there, but I didn't. The thing is, after the end of the Pixar section, there were two roads. One for the exit and one for Moomin. I accidentally took the exit and I couldn't return. And Shaggy just went to do his Moomin business. Okay, now finally here we have a few movie posters. One Piece Stampede. I wasn't still a One Piece fan at that time. I brought them to give them to my friends, but I never did. Don't tell them. Okay, Pokemon. Did anybody watch this 3D remake of the Mewtwo Strikes Back movie? I never did, but I thought this 3D looked really awful. It was some ugly CGI. Godzilla, King of Monsters. More like Kino of Monsters, because this movie is incredible. Avengers, as I said, I watched this movie with Shaggy, it was a great time. Toy Story 4, the most unnecessary sequel ever. And Spider-Man Far From Home. I know people don't really like this movie, but hey, this poster is pretty cool. And yeah, that's pretty much it. One more for One Piece and another for Pixar. I really wish I could return there someday. Maybe later. Anyway, let's finish this up. Those were my plane tickets, by the way. I'm sure you're all thinking, okay Luis, that's great and all that, but how much did that trip cost? And good thing for you, I'm also going to tell you that. Naturally we all paid in pesos, but just for convenience I'm going to give you the numbers in dollars. Just remember, there's always inflation and all that shit. Anyway, the round flight costed around $1,000 and $1,200, but that's because we went from my city to Mexico City and then Tokyo, while Shaggy paid less than us because he took a connection flight to Los Angeles. The Airbnb was split between 3 people, which was extremely convenient. 10 days for the price of $350. We reserved a few things before the trip, like the Ghibli Museum, the bar tour, among other things. So say that was approximately $100, since the rest of the activities were improvised. One last thing we got was a rail pass for a specific line in Tokyo, and said pass also gave us a free round trip on the Shinkansen. That one costed like $300 approximately. As for Japan itself, I'll say when it comes to souvenirs, video games, clothes and all that stuff, it was honestly on par for what you will see in touristic places in Mexico, even the US too. What was more expensive though was the food and the public transport, and you use the latter a lot, so the rail pass I mentioned earlier was super convenient. Even so, I think I spent something around $700 or $1,000 inside Japan. Alright, I think I said all the important stuff. So if we do basic maths, a 10-day trip to Japan costed around $2,450 at minimum. We planned this trip with a year of anticipation, so we could plan it better and save a good chunk of money. But I'll tell you, it was worth every single peso. Japan was easily one of the best trips I've ever done. Every day was an adventure and it was one of the happiest moments in my entire life because it was a dream of mine come true. I got more familiar with a different culture, I learned more about its people and society, and I loved every single second about it. And I think the best part is that I was able to share it with people I love. And now, there's something I want to tell you. I know most of us are interested in Japan because of video games and manga, and that's great. But Japan isn't just... It's a country with a wonderful culture and a rich history. You're in Japan, for fuck's sake! Don't close yourself, go out and enjoy everything it has to offer! Sorry if I suddenly got aggressive, but I really hate when people think that Japan is some sort of slice of life anime or that they will meet their cute, submissive wife or whatever. Please, take your Tomba sunglasses off and learn that a country is more than what the internet tells you it is. Do that, and I guarantee it will become an experience that you'll remember forever.